shadowed alleys of Lahore, Pakistan, lived Mohammed Riaz, a humble security guard, barely scraping by. With a frail income and a crumbling home, Riaz worked day and night to support his only daughter, 16-year-old Uzma. Life was a daily struggle, with barely enough to eat and no promise of a better tomorrow. Then, in April 2018, a woman named Mehruq appeared at their doorstep with a proposition that would change everything, and not for the better. She needed a maid and offered Riaz money in exchange for Uzma's help. Desperation clouded judgment. Riaz, torn by poverty, agreed to send his daughter away, not knowing it would be the last time he would ever see her alive. But there was a chilling catch. Uzma's salary would be just $400, and Riaz was forbidden from ever seeing or speaking to her. Each month, he would come to Mehruq's home, accept his daughter's wages at the gate, and leave, never allowed beyond the threshold. At first, things seemed routine. Uzma, soft-spoken and obedient, managed the household chores while Mehruq and her daughter Aima appeared to treat her well. But behind closed doors, a silent horror was brewing. For 8 long months, nothing seemed amiss until January 19th, 2019. On that fateful day, Mehruq walked into the local police station and filed a shocking report. Her maid Uzma had allegedly stolen valuables and run away. Riaz, called in for questioning, was adamant. His daughter would never do such a thing. But before the truth could surface, a horrific discovery shattered the silence. That very evening, a call came in from Lahore's Iqbal town. A foul-smelling canal had revealed a terrible secret, a bloodied sack, and inside, the lifeless body of a young girl. It was Uzma. Her body, emaciated and covered in bruises, bore the marks of prolonged torture. Knife wounds, faded burn marks, and deep welts painted a gruesome timeline of abuse. She had been starved, beaten, and discarded like trash. What began as a theft report now spiraled into a murder investigation. Post-mortem results left no doubt. This was no runaway maid, but a girl who had endured months of agony. When police searched Mehruq's house, the horror deepened. Bloodstains were found near the bathroom, a silent witness to the violence Uzma had suffered. The facade of a peaceful home crumbled, revealing a house of horror hiding in plain sight. What really happened behind those walls? Who all were involved in Uzma's slow, silent suffering? And how did no one notice the signs? As the investigation deepens, one thing becomes clear. This wasn't just a crime. It was a betrayal of trust, a failure of humanity, and a haunting reminder of what desperation can cost. Stay with us as we uncover the twisted truth behind the tragic end of Uzma, a young girl who only wanted to help her father and found herself trapped in a nightmare she couldn't escape. What began as a father's desperate attempt to provide for his family slowly unraveled into one of the most chilling true crime cases in Lahore's recent history. When police discovered the lifeless body of 16-year-old Uzma in a filthy canal, the pieces of a horrifying puzzle began to fall into place. Suspicion turned to certainty as officers dug deeper into the lives of Mehruq and her daughter Aima, the very women Uzma had once been entrusted to. Initially calm, their stories began to crack under pressure. Their words contradicted each other, their expressions grew uneasy, and then the police found it. A single video hidden inside a phone. What they saw shattered their composure. The screen revealed a frail, visibly bruised girl being force-fed while begging to be left alone. Her face was gaunt, her fingers curled unnaturally, and her eyes, once full of life, were hollow. That girl was Uzma. In that gut-wrenching moment, officers realized this wasn't just a missing persons case. It was a silent cry for help that had been ignored for 8 long months. Mehruq and Aima were arrested immediately. During interrogation, the shocking truth poured out. When Uzma first arrived, she was made to work as a domestic help, but soon things turned sinister. What began with controlling her meals escalated into violent abuse. Her food was restricted to once a day, then once every 2 or 3 days. The malnutrition wasted her body, and when she made even the smallest mistake, she was punished brutally. Knife wounds, beatings, and even electric shocks became part of her daily existence. She wasn't allowed a bed or even a room. She slept on the cold floor of a bathroom, drank water from a toilet, and was treated with unthinkable cruelty. Then came the final blow. On a cold January day, Uzma, driven by starvation, took a small bite from Emma's plate. Enraged, Mehruq stormed into the kitchen, grabbed a metal pot, and struck Uzma on the head. The young girl collapsed, unconscious. Instead of helping her, they dragged her back into the bathroom and left her there. Later that evening, when Uzma weakly emerged, disoriented and unable to walk straight, they gave her food, perhaps out of fear she might die. But it was already too late. The blow had caused internal bleeding, and by the next morning, Uzma's condition had worsened beyond saving. On the night of January 18th, she was locked inside that same bathroom. There, alone, in pain and afraid, Uzma took her last breath. By the next morning, it was over. 16-year-old Uzma lay lifeless in the bathroom where she had suffered for months in silence. When Mehruq saw her motionless body, panic took over. Terrified of the consequences, she called in her daughter Emma and her sister-in-law, Rehana. Together, the 3 women carried Uzma's body out of the bathroom, stuffed it into a sack, and under the cover of darkness, dumped it into a filthy canal. Hoping to escape suspicion, Mehruq took a bold step. She walked into the local police station on January 19th and filed a report, falsely claiming that Uzma had stolen valuables and run away. For a moment, it seemed like their story might work, but as investigators pulled at the threads, everything unraveled. When the truth emerged, even seasoned officers were left stunned. The level of cruelty and deception, committed not by strangers but by women entrusted to care for a child, was beyond comprehension. Rehana was also arrested and under intense questioning. All 3 women finally confessed to their crimes. They admitted to the months of starvation, the beatings, the torture, and ultimately, the fatal blow that ended Uzma's life. Yet despite their confessions, one haunting question remains. What punishment is truly enough for those who can destroy the life of an innocent child? Somewhere, Uzma's father, who once believed he was securing a better future for his daughter, must now be living with unbearable regret. What if he hadn't let her go? What if poverty hadn't forced his hand? But now, it's too late. The damage is done, and Uzma's story has become a permanent scar